Now at 5, the Salvation Army opens a new facility in Miami, Oklahoma. We'll see how it'll benefit the community. Plus, when the Joplin Police Department plans to do alcohol compliance checks of local businesses, and
the Supreme Court takes on 2 cases that could shape how we all use social media. I'm Jared Hill with a look at the arguments.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The Salvation Army of Ottawa County Service Center is moving into a new space that fits all their services. This is KOIM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Moving from Steve Owens Boulevard to 1915 North Main Street in Miami. At first glance, it might look like just a thrift store, but it's much more. After filling out an application, clothing is free to people in need. Access to the food pantry is based on income, and social services are needs-based.
As we're sitting here, people are ready to come in and come shop them, and then we have to let them know that we're actually not a Salvation Army thrift store. We're actually more like a resource hub with our food pantry and our clothing and our social services.
Salvation Army of Ottawa County Service Center is currently open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to noon. The Missouri Community Service Commission is asking for nominations for the 22nd Annual Show Me Service Awards. The awards highlight volunteer work done by Missourians. They're broken up by region and age, as well as community, business, and national service awards. You have until March 11th to fill out the form to nominate someone. You can find it on our website, koimnewsnow.com. Beautiful weather out there. Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic day across the region after we had a fantastic weekend. We were in the 60s on Saturday, well into the 70s yesterday and today. It looks good. 75 Joplin, 74 is where we stand in Pittsburgh. Look at these temperatures. 73 Nevada, 76 Anderson into Bentonville, 78 at Grand Lake. We have 80 in Independence. It's warm. It's windy. We have these southerly winds, which are kicking in at about 10 to 20. And these are going to stay strong as we go through the next, 36 hours or so. Temperatures this evening, we slide back through the 70s into the 60s, and that's it. We hang out near 60 later on tonight. Red flag warning due to fire weather warning across the region. Windy, humidity is low. We're going to talk more about this, plus some big changes moving in here in just a bit.
See you soon. Police in Joplin are going to be making sure minors aren't getting access to alcohol. The JPD says it'll conduct alcohol compliance checks at licensed retailers over the next several weeks. During these checks, underage buyers will attempt to buy alcohol from these businesses under police supervision. Those caught selling the alcohol are going to be cited and have the case referred to prosecutors. 2 conservative-led states took on social media today in arguments before the highest court in the land. At issue, how the First Amendment applies to social media sites. As Jared Hill reports, the court's decision could impact how millions of Americans interact on these platforms.
It's the First Amendment question for the internet age. Can the government force social media companies to carry content they've deemed objectionable?
The platforms do not have a First Amendment right to apply their censorship policies in an inconsistent manner and to censor and deplatform certain users.
Monday, the Supreme Court heard arguments in 2 cases from Florida and Texas, saying states should have a say in the matter.
It would require these social media platforms that are creating the compilation of third-party speech to fundamentally alter their product that they're offering. We think that's an infringement of speech, and the court should say so.
The Republican-led states passed their laws after Facebook and X, Twitter at the time, banned former President Donald Trump following the January 6th attack on the Capitol, concerned his posts would incite more violence. Social media sites argue they're more like newspapers and should be able to make editorial judgments. But the states say these platforms are more like telephone companies and can't kick people off. Several justices commented on how broad the laws are, and in the case of Florida's, its lack of specificity.
We're not quite sure who it covers. We're not clear exactly how these platforms work.
I might have heard the justices trying to find a way to kick this back to Florida, back to Texas, and have a more developed record before they make a big First Amendment ruling.
A decision is expected by June. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
High Court's been grappling with internet issues for a quarter century. Justice Clarence Thomas drew laughter from the gallery when he remarked, I've been fortunate or unfortunate to have been here for most of the development of the internet, end quote. The 2024 Republican primary heads to a critical swing state after another big win for former President Donald Trump. He easily beat former Ambassador Nikki Haley in her home state of South Carolina Saturday, although not by as much as some were expecting. Haley is vowing to fight on, and she's focused on the next primary in Michigan tomorrow. Former President Trump, his adult sons, and two former Trump Organization officials are appealing the $464 million civil fraud judgment against them. Former president is personally on the hook for $454 million, including interest payments. Earlier this month, they were found liable for fraud, conspiracy, and issuing false financial statements. The Trumps filed a notice of appeal with the court today, the first business day after the official judgment. A solemn vigil was held today at the University of Georgia in honor of slain Athens University nursing student Laken Riley. Police found the 22-year-old's body in a wooded area behind a lake on the Athens campus hours after she went out for a morning run Thursday. As classes resumed today, hundreds of students paused to remember both Riley and another student who took his own life last week in an on-campus dormitory.
We know time is what we all want with the people we love. And although we all long for more time with both Wyatt and Laken, we find peace in the light they brought into our lives.
Be kind. Catch up with your friends. And strive to be the type of person that Laken was, where sister shared, even if you hadn't seen her in a while. It was like no time had passed at all.
Last week, police arrested 26-year-old Jose Ibarra, an undocumented Venezuelan migrant in connection to Riley's murder. Her visitation and funeral were set to take place on Friday. Still ahead, taking steps for prevention.
Many young people aren't aware of the risk factors they can control to help prevent colorectal cancer. I'm Michael George with the results of a new survey.
Plus, what a new report shows about traffic deaths in the U.S. Topping today's Health Watch, traffic deaths are now trending downward after a post-pandemic spike. A preliminary analysis by the National Safety Council shows more than 44,000 people died in traffic crashes in 2023. That's a 4% drop from 2 years ago, but it's still 13% higher than before the pandemic. The NSC says speeding, distracted driving, and impaired driving are major factors contributing to the problem.
At the beginning of the pandemic, we had less people driving. I think that provided some drivers the visual cue or perhaps the permission to drive faster. And unfortunately, that type of behavior has not subsided since traffic returned to our roadways. So unfortunately, that's sort of the outcomes that we're seeing on the roadways.
NSC data also shows motor vehicle fatalities were down at least 10% in a dozen states, while 7 states and Washington, D.C. saw double-digit increases. The agency says nearly half of all roadway fatalities occur on rural roads. New survey data shows younger Americans aren't aware of the risk factors for colorectal cancer that are actually within their power to change. Colorectal cancer rates have been rising among younger people in recent years, and there are steps you can take to reduce your risk. Reporter Michael George introduces us to one dad who was diagnosed at age 43.
Will Triplett is an Ohio restaurant owner and busy dad of 2. In 2019, he began experiencing rectal bleeding and discomfort. It worsened, and months later, he received some devastating news.
It was stage 3 rectal cancer.
Triplett was just 43, younger than the recommended age of 45 for a colonoscopy.
Busy, active lifestyle. Didn't always have the best diet, especially in my younger adult years.
A new national survey from the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center of 1,000 adults found while most people know family history is a risk factor for colorectal cancer, they lack lack awareness for other factors. Less than half know alcohol use is a risk factor. 2 in 5 don't know a lack of physical activity can play a part. And more than a third are unaware that obesity and a diet high in fat and processed foods are risk factors. Dr. Matthew Kalady, who treated Triplet, says the uptick in colorectal cancer among younger Americans is concerning.
One of the things that we do think it's related to is probably consumption. People nowadays, unfortunately, based on our society, there's a lot less physical activity, particularly in some of the younger populations.
Doctors emphasize colorectal cancer can be cured if it's caught early and prevented through regular screening. Triplet's kids will start getting colonoscopies at age 35. He's urging everyone of the recommended age to make that appointment.
There's really no reason to worry. They're easy.
Triplet adds it could potentially save your life. Michael George, CBS News.
The survey also found Black and Hispanic people who are at an increased risk for colorectal cancer know less about the risk factors compared to white people. Your genes can significantly affect your blood pressure, even starting at childhood. Researchers at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology found hereditary factors play a major role in causing high blood pressure for all age groups. The good news? Lifestyle changes and medication can significantly reduce that risk. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, when the real estate market might start picking up speed again.
Plus, our temperatures are fantastic, but big changes moving in. We're going to look at that coming up next. Well, it turned out to be another great one for us today. Temperatures fantastic. We had a great stretch through the weekend, and then we popped into the 70s yesterday. 77, maybe 8 for us today. We'll see what the official number is, but we are wrapping up the month of February, and so far 21 days have been above average. Big switch compared to what we had in the month of January. Let's go outside. Here's a great shot. This is Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. You can't see the clouds up top. We are going to have a lot of mid and upper level clouds throughout the evening hours as we slip back through the 60s, but our overnight low tonight is only going to be about 60 degrees. All right, red flag warning or fire weather warning for us tomorrow. It's going to be very windy. The humidity is going to be low, so it is not a good time to decide to do some burning outside over the next 36 hours. Look at our winds. Southerly winds kicking in 10 to 15 miles per hour. These are sustained, but we've been getting gusts at times 25 upwards to 30 miles per hour, and these are actually going to pick up even a little bit more as we go through the next couple days. But check this out. So look at our relative humidity. So right now it's about 30%. They kind of stay in that 30 to 40% range through tomorrow morning, and then they fall way back down into the teens. So the atmosphere is going to be very dry, and then you add very gusty winds, which are going to be gusting near 40 for us tomorrow. That's why there is that fire danger for us. The winds are going to stay strong through the day tomorrow, switch out of the north, and very windy again on Wednesday morning. Then they'll start to calm down a bit as we get into Wednesday afternoon. Check out these temperatures, mid to upper 70s across the region. Look at the entire Central Plains. We got 86 in Dallas. Cold air is looming way up in North Dakota, and watch this. By tomorrow evening, a very strong cold front is going to push in. We're going to be in the 80s tomorrow, and it pushes through. We're going to have about a 55 degree, maybe 60 degree drop from tomorrow afternoon heading into Wednesday morning, which is kind of crazy. A lot of clouds pushing through, nothing underneath the clouds. Few little showers may skirt to our south as we go through the evening hours. Here's our next storm system building the western third of the country, getting ready to head in as we go through the next few days. It's not going to have a lot of moisture with it, but definitely a big temperature swing. All right, by morning, starting at about 60, we go upper 70s by noon. Most of us 80 to about 82 for a high. Here comes the cold front tomorrow evening. There may be a few thunderstorms just southeast of us, but I think we'll stay mainly dry. And then a little band of light snow tomorrow night that will clip our northern counties, but it doesn't look like it's a huge deal. But look at our start into the 20s by the time Wednesday rolls around. So a little bit of light snow tomorrow night. These would be very, very minor accumulations, not a big deal whatsoever in the northern half of the region. 81 tomorrow, down to 27 tomorrow night. So that's a huge swing.
Wow.
And then a high of only 43 on Wednesday. Some showers back in on Thursday. So crazy ride we're going to go through.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't damage the vegetation. I guess the freeze, if it comes, will be very brief anyway.
Yep.
Thanks, Chuck. 2 supermarket giants want to merge, but the federal government's trying to prevent that. That's coming up. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the U.S. government is trying to block the largest supermarket merger in American history. In 2022, Kroger and Albertsons announced they were merging in a $25 billion deal. The FTC is now suing, claiming the deal would eliminate competition in the grocery industry and lead to higher prices for consumers, you and me. Together, Kroger and Albertsons own dozens of chains. They argue the merger will help them compete against non-union giants like Walmart, Amazon, and Costco. Credit card debt in the U.S. is surging. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York says credit card debt hit a new high of $1.1 trillion from October through December. Lending Tree says the average unpaid credit card balance was more than $6,800 in the fourth quarter. Economists say after adjusting for inflation, the current level is nearly 20% below a peak it reached in late 2008. The real estate market has slowed significantly because of rising loan costs. Elise Preston has a look at when homes might move again.
Americans are hoping for a spring thaw in the housing market. Rising mortgage rates and higher home prices have kept many would-be buyers on the sidelines.
When you have mortgage rates above 7%, it's really been a gut punch for the whole real estate market. And that's why there's so much focus on the Fed in this game of poker. When do they start to cut rates?
The current rate for a 30-year mixed loan is 7.5%. with the average home price hitting a record high of $379,000. Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities, a brokerage firm.
The housing market's essentially at a standstill. I'll call it, it's a buyer's strike, and sellers, inventory is starting to increase, but no one's really signing on the dotted line.
Despite inflation slowing down, Americans are spending more than 11% of their income on food, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, a number not seen in more than 30 years.
What is your advice to the average consumer?
Yeah, my advice is we're going to see the Fed start to cut as we get into May and June. That's good for consumers.
Some good economic news. The nation's unemployment rate remains steady, with more people finding new jobs at the start of the year than experts predicted. Elise Preston, CBS News, Los Angeles.
An experimental eye-tracking AI function is allowing users to operate a car just by looking at their phone screen. A Chinese tech company named Honor demonstrated the technology ahead of today's start of the annual Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. The user started the car remotely and moved it forward and back just by using an eye control app on the company's new smartphone.
So if you didn't want to touch the screen or for any reason, let's say you've got dirty hands or whatever, then by looking at the screen, you can then interact with the phone in a new way.
The phone's connected to the vehicle's computer systems via a Wi-Fi link. That tool is already available in China. Final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, cracking down on equipment fueling the opioid epidemic. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on that new facility, Salvation Army facility in Miami, Oklahoma. Plus, first responders in Independence, Kansas get a shock when a truck crashes into a fire department and EMS building. And Pitt State's indoor track and field teams look to continue their reign of dominance at the MIAA Championship. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. What beautiful weather out there, Dave.
Yeah, it turned out to be a fantastic weekend, and also a great day today. Temperatures for us tomorrow, they're going to be way up there, 81 degrees for a high, turning much, much colder tomorrow night into Wednesday, plus very windy as well.
Yeah, quite a drop tomorrow evening. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next, and of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.